America. But anyway, let's go back to the nation of Israel. And Samuel now is the judge over Israel. If you remember the guy before him, Eli, his sons were corrupt and they went bad. And now Samuel's sons are corrupt and they have gone bad. And now the people go to Samuel and they say, we want a king. We don't want to be ruled this way anymore. We want a king. We want someone who will lord over us, reign over us. That's what we want. Samuel was angry, if you remember that. And he went to God and he complained to God. He said, God, I think you ought to kill them all. I think you ought to, I'm just paraphrasing here, but God, what are you going to do about this? And God said, tell them this, I'm going to give them a king. And he said, Samuel, you go back and you tell the people what manner of king that they're going to get. I'm going to give them, and you listen to this now, I'm going to give them what they ask for. God does that. He is giving America only what America has asked for. 1 Samuel chapter 8, verse 11, and he said, this will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, and to be his horsemen. And some shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint him captains over thousands, and captains over 50s. He's setting up a force, is what he's doing. And will set them to ear his ground, and to reap his harvest. Now I'm going to stop right here. We have looked at several things in the past broadcasts that we've done, and you guys know as well as I do, that there is a massive push by the federal government, this land grab that is taking place. Areas of our country that are rich, some of the richest areas in our country that have, and we have Alaska oil, we have mineral resources in Montana and other places. And it's interesting that the richest, abundant places in our country, that's where the environmentalists say, there's a worm there, and we will harm the worm if we drill for oil there. That's what we're going to do. And we shouldn't do that. That would be not right for the environment. Mother Nature would frown on that. So the government takes over all this land, and so he's talking about, we'll set them to ear his ground and to reap his harvest, and his harvest, his land. Okay? His land. The federal government believes, there are people in the government that believe, and Obama's one of them, Pelosi's one of them, Harry Reid's one of them, Ted the Swimmer Kennedy was one of them, and all of these people, they think that they are better than you are, and they think that they're smarter than you are because they're Harvard trained, and they think that they know what's best. And so you landowners and you farmers who've been farming the land for 200 years in this country, we really know what's best for you. So let's take over everything that's going on. So here we have the government taking over the car industry in America. The government taking over the banking industry in America. The government taking over the health care industry in America, doing whatever they want to do with it. Then they're going to take over small businesses. They're going to take over big businesses. They're going to take over the public schools. Your local public school that your school board is supposed to have sovereignty over, they're going to take it over. They're going to take over every aspect of your life. It's not going to belong to you. It's going to belong to the king. They shall reap his harvest and to make his instruments of war and his instruments of chariots. He says in verse 14, and he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. How much of that is going on right now? What kind of deals were made in Washington, D.C. concerning this health care legislation to get some of these guys who were on the fence to roll over and vote for it? What happened? The government, the congressmen who think that your money is their money, they decided that they would take one guy. They call it different names. The Louisiana Purchase, and I can't remember all the names that they were applying to all these different give-outs for these congressmen who would vote on this health care. But they basically said, you're not going to vote on health care? Well, here's what we'll do. We'll take $14 billion of taxpayer money, our money, and we'll give that into your state so that you can look like the big dog and get reelected next year. That's what they did, and they did that all over the country. They took the very best that the American worker and the American business owner has worked their guts out to save, to earn, to provide income for their family, and to provide a little bit of wealth for themselves. The federal government has taken that, and they said, no, we're going to give that because that's really our money. That's what they think. He's going to take your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards and give to his officers and to his servants. Now, you say, well, what about the draft? You know what? I think the country has a right. There was a time that the country wanted to protect itself, has a right to do that. And so they enforced a draft. My uncle is a World War II veteran. I don't know if he was drafted or if he signed up. We had a man in our church that recently passed away that when the war broke out, when they bombed Pearl Harbor, 16 years old, he went and lied about his age so he could go fight for his country. We're talking about a time in our country when it was honorable to go and defend your country. Now we're looking at a time where the government says, if we need you, we're taking you. You will work for us. We've already seen, and I don't know how many different places you can Google this and find this out, one of the executive orders in our country that the president, if he just decides to, can issue a demand that basically says if the government drives down the road and they see you standing there and they say, you know what, get in the truck, you're going to work for us, that's what's going to happen. In voluntary service, we are going to be, instead, you know, we call politicians public servants. They're supposed to be the servants of the will of the people. Now we're going to turn it around. And isn't that the shape of everything that's going on right now? The church is being turned around, the Bible's being turned around, and our own government's being turned around. Now they're not the servants of the people. The people are the servants of the government. And he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young men and your asses and put them to his work. And he will take the tenth of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants. You know what he's also talking about here? Taxation. This health care bill is part of, and you watch and see what happens. They are probably going to pass this cap and trade bill that we've been talking about, and GE is right on the forefront of all this stuff. They're going to pass this cap and trade bill because they passed health care. They jammed it down our throats, and we didn't want it, so now they're going to go and pass cap and trade. And basically what cap and trade does is that basically it's another tax. They're going to tax how you build a home. They're going to double tax this. They're going to double tax that. And it's all in an effort to give certain elite people more of your money and more of your power and more of your control. That's exactly what's going on here. And God said it. God said it in His Word. You know, I'm not very smart when it comes to politics. There's some things in politics and the political realm that I just don't understand. You know, I'm watching C-SPAN and I'm watching these congressmen stand up and they start getting ready to give their speech, and they said unanimous consent for, you know, to extend and revise my... I don't have a clue what that means. I think I do, but I will tell you that I know this Bible a little bit, and I know what God said, and I know what God always warned us about. And America, if you didn't want this health care bill, you should have taken heed to the Word of God a long time ago. It's better to let the Bible be preventative medicine than to be a bailout system for us. How many times in our lives have we gone under the influence of sin and temptation in our life, when the Bible clearly warned us not only about how wrong it was and how immoral it was, but it was warning us of not only the earthly ramifications of it, but the eternal ramifications of it. God was warning His people. He always warned us. And yet we went and did something that was totally stupid. And then we had to go back and have the Bible be used as a bailout for us because of our own stupidity.